Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel, Capri Social Network. As usual, I am your host, Capri aka Cap. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about how nice, clean cut, mild mannered brothers, and what I mean by brothers is black men specifically, always usually have to end up with Pookies and Ray Rays leftovers. Because how many of you guys can relate to what I'm referring to, the topic of this here video, today's video, on behalf of a lot of you guys who may fit this description of a guy who carries himself in such an upstanding and dignified manner and has been that way your whole life, had came from a very good upbringing when both parents in the household went to church as a kid every Sunday, partook in Sunday school while you were in church, also either sang in church, hell, even direct, and excuse me for some of you who may have gotten offended by me saying hell, I really wasn't saying it in a profane context. I just caught myself trying to prove a point by using the word. Once again, my apologies. Anyways, some of you brothers may have went as far as were so into the church while growing up and during your youth to the point where once you were able to partake in being the director of your church choir or church's choir, for some of you who may have been a part of a church, that may lucky enough to be part of a church with a choir, you brothers in most cases had a hard time in the dating game due to how a lot of black females, black Americans specifically females, looked at you as not their speed. In other words, not their type. And for the most part, being not hood or street enough. And specifically due to you being into the Lord in the church. I'm referring to you brothers, and throughout your whole youth, from the time you were in elementary school, middle school, high school, and for some of you who were lucky enough to go to college, a lot of you correlate to being rejected by so many sisters, as in so many black American women, to the point where when you did find that potential match, she had to end up being a woman with kids already from a previous relationship, either from a previous relationship or a previous marriage. And in most cases, her ex happened to fit the description of either a dope boy, who else? Somebody who happened to be a straight up armed and dangerous criminal, a scammer / scam artist, or aka scam artist, one who may have been a womanizer, and that may have been one of the biggest reasons why she had to end up either breaking up with him after having a kid, or in most cases kids by him, or divorcing him due to his whorish ways. Or he may have happened to be an abuser, a man who made a habit and had the tendency of putting his hands on her. In some cases, all of the above. And this is one of the main reasons why, when it all came down to it, for some of you who may have been in a relationship with a woman of that nature, and I'm referring to my brothers specifically without kids, who never ever has had kids of their very own, instead had to take on the role of being a stepdad or taking care of a guy by the likes of a Pookie or Ray Ray's kids. And in some instances, these women are used to some of the most drop-dead gorgeous, most shapely women that guys in some cases will literally and figuratively kill for, kill to be with. Once again, these are the types of women, and I know it's unfortunate to say, who you happen to hit it off with, Otherwise, if it wasn't for her getting her heart broken by her ex, what it may have been an ex-boyfriend, aka baby daddy, or an ex-husband who put her through there, down through there, as we say down south, where I'm from, Bama. In most cases, you had to end up with a woman in this regard, a woman who might as well say was desperate and decided to lower her standards and finally settle for her a man who meant her some good, a man who would make an excellent husband, excellent father. And in most cases, I would say, not all the time, but most of the time, if that makes sense, a lot of you good standing, or to put it another way, upstanding, mild-mannered, clean-cut, decent brothers have to use to end up with women when you do finally end up finding your future, what it may be, main chick or your wife. You have to, or either had to end up settling for a woman who had her heart broken by the bad boy, the Pookie, the Ray Ray. Case in point, look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is worth so many hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's an NFL quarterback. Look who we had to end up settling for, Sierra. Now, don't get me wrong, Sierra is sexy. She's sexy as all outdoors, but she happened to have a kid when she already met Future. I mean, not Future, my bad, but she already met Russell Wilson, and he had to take on the role of a stepdaddy. Now, Russell Wilson is somebody who happens to not meet the average Black Americans woman standards, modern day Black American woman standards. Women in their 20s, 30s, 40s. That's the types of Black women I'm referring to as in modern day Black women. The main type of brother that so many of them would look at, well, a lot of Black women would look at as a lame, as a cornball. I'll give you another example. Somebody else by the likes of, who else had, Derek Fisher, as you see in the thumbnail, he had to take on the unfortunate role of marrying, I believe, Gloria Gavon, Matt Barnes' ex/baby mama. And if I'm not mistaken, she never married Matt Barnes, yet and still had twin boys by him. And Matt Barnes happens to fit the description of a bad boy, so to speak, Ray Ray, a Pookie. Whereas Derek Fisher, I could tell, grew up in a pretty good upbringing, a pretty strict household, and carries himself in such a dignified manner. And he's another example of the clean-cut, mild-mannered brother that fits the title of this video, and how he had to end up selling for being a stepdaddy to a Pookie's kids, a Ray Ray's kids, or quote-unquote bad boys' kids, by being the stepfather of Matt Barnes' two twin boys. Once again, due to how so many African American women have such a serious craving for quote-unquote bad boys, guys, once again, who may have done jail time, in some cases prison time, for scamming people, making a living out of being scam artists. If not that, usually being child molesters, and even worse, being murderers, being drug dealers, aka dope boys, guys who can't stay out of jail, also due to them being behind in child support and having, not only that, multiple kids by multiple women, aka baby mamas. These are the types of men that Black women, Black American women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s put on a pedestal, so to speak. And as a result, a lot of decent, once again, upstanding, mild-mannered, clean-cut, decent brothers, in most cases, and some of my most highly educated brothers, either are now dealing with a woman of that regard who got her heart broken by the hoodlum slash or aka bad boy, and as a result, that's when she started lowering her standards. To be honest, they have low standards to start with anyway. The main reason they settle for guys of that magnitude to start with, guys who are some of the most toxic and dysfunctional guys, bottom of the totem pole they could use to find. Let me just say it this way. Instead, I would say instead of lowering their standards by settling for guys who will make excellent husbands, good, excellent fathers, and could provide for them, they usually raise their standards. So forgive me for saying lowering their standards when they usually settle for the good, decent, mild-mannered, clean-cut brother. That's when they start raising their standards. See, before they used to get with those kind of guys, they have such low standards because that's why so many of them settle for guys who are the most toxic, guys who can't even rub two niggas together, both figuratively speaking and literally speaking. Guys who, in some cases, don't have a job, and when they do get a job, they can't hardly pass the drug test due to how they smoke excessive amounts of marijuana and usually have to have somebody to pee for them in order to pass the drug test. Guys who also can't stay out of jail to save their lives, either on behalf of missing child support payments, being women abusers, if not that, usually due to distributing drugs, illicit drugs, from marijuana to much more harmful drugs. Guys who also have murdered people, been locked up for aggravated assault, aggravated robbery. These are the same types of men who women, black women, choose to first and foremost have kids with, and in some instances even marry. Then once the guy ends up breaking their heart, that's where they usually end up wanting to settle for the good guy instead of going for the good, decent guy in the first place. They would have so many black American women. The main problem is so many modern day black American women have such a backwards psychology to the point where they look at some of the worst groups of men as some of the best men to be fathers, to choose to have as fathers to their kids and husbands, instead of picking guys who are the opposite. Anyways, you guys make sure you smash that like button. Let me know how much you may have liked my perspective and my feedback. You share this video, you comment on it. Last not least, you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, you guys have a good one.